Alright guys, it's time to get real with ag on the channel. Today we're going to be doing one of the main things that agriculture consists of, and that is math. We are going to do math. So my desk is a little messy, yes. It's also not a paid advertisement for John Deere. I bleed green. I love John Deere. Today we're going to be taking a look at one of my main things, which is machinery. And one of the best things for finding old machinery is Auction Time and Tractor House. Also not a paid advertisement. I just like them okay and I use it. So I should mention before we start that a couple of things in this series are going to get fairly complicated fairly quickly, but we should keep it pretty basic in today's machinery intro. We're going to talk about the costs of machinery for different sized farms. We're going to start with a small farm. I'll take a list of everything, just put together a random list of machinery, add up the prices, and I'll show you guys what that totals to. And I think a lot of you are going to be pretty surprised about the general cost of machinery. I'm going to look through. I've given myself 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 2 of them are auction times. We can't use those. So I've given myself 4 Tractor House magazines, I believe, to look through. Those 4 Tractor House magazines are going to provide all the machinery for the imaginary farms that we're going to be making up and doing our financial work on. So I'll pull out a sheet of paper and start adding here. Maybe we'll time-lapse it. Now, you have to forgive the poor handwriting that you can't see right now, but we're doing some math real quick just to add everything up quickly. I could do it on the paper just fine. Oh no, I messed up. That'd be 81,000, and then 37,000, then 10,500. Okay, so the final number we came up with was $251,350. Feel free to double check my math here. Now, we do have a newer tractor. This is saying that we have, 3 tractors, 2 small ones, 1 larger one. We do have a nice combine, 8-row header, 12-13 planter. We have a grain cart. We do have a that's supposed to be 30, not 35, 30-foot header, a disc, a semi, and a trailer. That is it. Most farm setups will have bush hogs, and this is just strictly row crop. This isn't even talking about hay. There's all kinds of other equipment that goes into hay, and we're at $251,000. Like I said, that's not trucks. That's not even your crop inputs, your land costs. Your land costs can be north of, well, if you're starting, it's crazy. Land can be around $8,500 an acre. So let's just real quick say you had say land prices were $8,500 an acre. Now, if you, let's just say you bought 100 acres and you multiply, not 1,000, and you multiplied that by 100. Well, 8,500 times 100 is $850,000. There you go. You almost have $1 million just in land costs to buy 100 acres. This machinery is set up for like part-time. It'd be, if you were farming part-time, this could easily take 650 to 800 acres, and if you're farming full-time, it could take 1,000 plus easily. So let's multiply this by, let's put another zero on that in. That's 8.5, well, that should be this is $8.5 million right here you're spending in land to justify having this equipment if you're trying to farm full-time. That's not even subtracting, let's just say, an average of $20,000 for your living cost if you're truly farming on your own and you're doing it like as your job. So that's your living cost. Then you have however much seed inputs is, and you can be, you can easily have losing a couple $100 an acre with your crop inputs. So we'll just label that crop inputs. So once you have your crop inputs, it's $200 an acre more. So that's already like $8,700 an acre. So that's like $8.7 million if you're farming 1,000 acres. So that's 8.7 plus roughly 0.25. So you're already close to $9 million, and some years you won't even make money. So if you're just starting with a crazy setup like this, which generally you wouldn't start with 1,000 acres, but if you did, you'd be putting in almost $10 million from your machinery, your land, and everything. And that's saying you're buying 1,000 acres outright. So yes, this is an unlikely case, but this is pretty much the numbers for you if you're just, and this isn't talking about application fees for mid-season, any type of insecticide, fungicide, all those kinds of things. All that cost even more money. And then so years where your corn is like $10.50 an acre. Oh, I mean the beans are $10.50. Corn would never. Let's say corn's $3.50 for the purpose of easy math. So $3.50, say you have 500 acres. So 500. Darn, too many zeros. I'm trying to write through the camera. So $3.50 times your $575,000 a year. So your overhead costs, say you really started, your overhead cost would be something around 9.5. Let's just say 1 million, just to keep it simple. Subtract 175,000. Oh my gosh, pen stopped writing. Subtract 175,000 from that, and then let's just say you make 300 off of soybeans. Just rough guess, I didn't do any math there. So then you're basically subtracting $475,000, and your debt is something around $500,000. That's the problem, and we talk about a lot of the issues in agriculture. There's all kinds of things that pertain to this, and this is where it starts to get really confusing really fast. So feel free to listen if you want to listen to something a little bit more advanced about agriculture. I think we almost need to pull off a new note sheet here, but so a lot of people indicate in farming, I do not like debt. Debt is a bad thing, but you're either born into it, you marry it, or you inherit it, or you go into debt trying to get into it. That's about the only way you can get into farming. And the FSA office provides great starter loans. They're not handouts. It's not free money. You have to work and pay it back, but that is one way to get started farming. If you want to hear more about it, I would just suggest Clark Farms, because a lot of what I'm covering is what he's covering. So we've got everything laid out here. We've already talked about the overhead cost for buying 1,000 acres of land here in central Indiana, and that's just average, I'd say. And it is expensive, so, and this is not counting your maintenance. Your maintenance can be even more expensive than everything that's written down on this paper right now. There really, truly is a whole lot that goes into it. So I wouldn't, and people say, oh, well, you made hundreds of thousands of dollars off of crops. Well, yes and no. Yes, the elevators paid us a lot of money, but we're farmers in general are relatively middle. I like this quote. I don't remember who it's by, but farmers are relatively middle class. They just deal with large amounts of money going in and large amounts of money going out. And occasionally you have more amount of money going out than you have going in, and that's when you have a negative income. And that is not good, but it does happen sometimes. Now, one of those things we want to talk about is like when you, this is going farther into, say you've been farming for a while. If worse comes to worse, there is always the option to downsize, and some people don't think that. They think, oh, but we're done, or they just keep trying to dig themselves into a hole, and sadly I'll say I'm stubborn. I would probably be one of those people. I wouldn't let it get too far, but would you rather have a smaller farm or no farm? But then some people would say, if you're farming on 1,000 acres and can't make money, how can you make money on 400 acres? Sometimes you also have just the labor and all the acres are running away from you. You can't stand it, and you can't efficiently operate that much land, and that's the point where you would, where it would be beneficial to downsize. But if it was just your profit per acre wasn't high enough, well then downsizing might not help you. It might actually hurt your income. So it's all a matter of the situation of the farm, and there's all kinds of things to talk about. We could have hours upon hours upon hours upon hours of this, and I could sit here and talk about it forever and run over things, but I think we've covered somewhat the basics of this and just how everything works. So I wanted you guys to see some of the financial aspects of farming. So here you go. Oh, million. Okay, there's another quote that I like. I don't remember who it was either, but the best way to make $1 million in farming is to start with $2 million, and that's really true. And like I said, you have to be born into it, you gotta inherit it, you gotta marry it, or you gotta go into debt. That's the only way you're gonna get into it. Thankfully, I was born into it, and hopefully will inherit it one day, but it is hard being a new farmer. And another thing I want to cover just quick before we leave, and if you guys made it to this point, y'all are awesome for listening through all my boring numbers and everything, but this is a lot of farming is math, these numbers, running these numbers constantly, keeping track of everything, staying organized. It is a lot of farming. It's an important aspect. It's not just what you see on the channel and the things we're working on. I would show the behind the scenes, but that just gets too long and boring. That's what this these are not our numbers. These are just numbers I've came up with out of the tractor house. I was going to do one for a mid-sized farm and a large farm, but generally you wouldn't go into a mid-sized or large farm. You go into a small farm starting. And we also don't have enough time in this video to do something like that, so it's not going to happen in this one. And if we ever get Pfister Farms back on the podcast, I think we can talk about some of the financial aspects of farming, because it's something that's really interesting, and a lot of people don't realize this. Now, I was going to cover something else in this video, but I've just realized we're running on quite a few minutes here, and I don't want to bore you guys too much. So until next time, this has been Ag101. Hopefully you learned something today, and thank your farmers out there. Oh, I do want to cover one more thing real fast, just one more thing, and that is, this will have its own video. This will probably be our next video, either this or weather. Probably weather than this, but it's employment in agriculture, and the fact that a lot of employment in agriculture is hard. I'll leave it at that, and we'll talk about it coming up in a couple of videos, which I will probably immediately make after this. So thank you guys for watching. I appreciate your views on this, and I hope that you've learned something today. Be sure to comment, share, like, and subscribe. We'll see you back next time with some more financials and stuff. All kinds of the nitty-gritty bag.